Every single day you stay the same, you fall behind. Smart people don't wait, they improve daily. That's the truth. In a world that's moving fast, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. This video isn't about motivation that fades. It's about what smart people actually do to get better every single day. It's about real habits you can use, not theories, not hype, but proven actions that sharpen your thinking and build real progress. You don't need more talent, you need better direction. Smart people wake up with purpose. They don't waste their time trying to look smart. They build systems to become smarter. They reflect, they ask better questions, they fix their flaws, and they move with clarity. This video will walk you through 10 habits that will help you grow every day, mentally, emotionally, and practically. These are habits you can start using now, not someday. If you're ready to think better, live stronger, and grow faster, this is where it begins. Stay locked in. Chapter 1. Build a solid morning routine that drives focus. You know, if you want to become smarter every day, the first thing you have to do is stop waking up like it doesn't matter. Because it does matter. How you begin your day will set the tone for everything that follows, and most people never figure that out. They think intelligence is all about reading books or remembering facts, but that's not the whole picture. Real intelligence comes from learning how to live better, and it starts with how you spend the first hour of your day. You don't need to do anything dramatic. You just need to build a solid morning routine. Not a perfect one, not something you copy from someone else. A routine that works for you. A routine that gives you time to think. A routine that helps you prepare mentally and emotionally for what's ahead. That's what smart people do. They don't just react to the day, they prepare for it. They don't leave their mood to chance. They set it up on purpose. Now, here's the thing. Most people waste their mornings. They wake up late. They check their phone. They scroll through news or social media. They react to messages, to emails, to drama. And then they wonder why they feel rushed, distracted, behind. That kind of start won't make you smarter. It pulls you into other people's agenda before you even get a grip on your own. A smart person starts their day with structure, and structure doesn't mean strict rules. It means clarity. It means you know what matters, and you start with that. Maybe for you it's taking 5 minutes in silence. Maybe it's writing down your goals. Maybe it's reviewing your to-do list. Maybe it's moving your body. Maybe it's reading a page of something valuable. But it has to be something that centers you, something that reminds you what you're doing this all for. Because once you get your morning right, you start to move with purpose. And that's the difference between living smart and living scattered. You don't just respond to life, you create it. You have to be intentional. What time do you wake up? What's the first thing you think about? What's the first thing you do? Are you feeding your mind with something useful? Are you feeding your body with something healthy? Are you doing anything at all to prepare for the challenges ahead? These questions may seem simple, but if you answer them every day, you'll begin to feel different. You'll carry yourself with more control, more confidence, more awareness. And I want you to pay attention to that word, awareness. Smart people are aware. They notice how they feel. They notice when they're off. They notice when they're wasting time. And they correct it early. You can't build awareness if you wake up already chasing the clock. You need that quiet time in the morning, that space to reset. That's where your intelligence grows. That's where you begin to separate from the average. Some people say, I'm not a morning person. That's fine. But being smart isn't about preference. It's about choosing what makes you better. If you have to get up earlier to have that time for yourself, then do it. If you have to sleep earlier to protect your energy, then do that too. Your life is built on the choices you make consistently, not the ones you make once in a while. And once you start to protect your morning, you'll begin to see how powerful it is. You'll stop waking up in panic. You'll stop feeling like you're already behind before the day even starts. Instead, you'll feel ready. You'll feel focused. You'll feel like you're in control again. Now think about what happens when you do this every day. Not once a week, every day. It builds momentum. It becomes a habit. It becomes a standard. You begin to raise your standards without even realizing it. You'll stop tolerating lazy starts. You'll stop accepting chaos. You'll start to expect better from yourself, and that expectation, that quiet confidence, it changes how you approach everything. When your morning is right, your mind is sharp, you make better decisions, you avoid distractions faster, you focus deeper. You're not just moving through tasks, you're making real progress. Now you might say, but I have a busy life. I've got responsibilities. I understand, but that's exactly why you need a solid morning routine. It gives you time for yourself before the world demands everything from you. It's your chance to put yourself in the right frame of mind. If you wait until the day settles down, you've already lost the most powerful part of it. You have to make space for your mind to lead, not just follow. And the best time to do that is early in the day. Before the noise, before the stress, before the distractions. This is what smart people do differently. They don't wait for life to slow down. They get ahead of it. They carve out space to think, to reflect, to plan. And once that habit is in place, they don't compromise it. Because they know this is the edge. This is where progress begins. And don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to copy someone else's routine. Just choose a few simple things that help you feel grounded. Drink some water, stretch, read, write, breathe, think, plan. Choose your attitude, choose your energy, choose your focus. Make your morning a time where you build yourself, not where you check out of life. And if you stay consistent, something amazing happens. You start to trust yourself more. You begin to respect yourself more. You stop letting your days control you, and that changes everything. Your goals feel possible again. Your actions feel intentional. Your progress becomes visible. That's how people get smarter. That's how they grow. Not by luck, not by accident, but by building habits that give them control, especially in the first moments of the day. So, if you want to become smarter every day, don't just add more information, add more structure. Add more awareness, add more purpose. And the easiest place to start is with your morning. Protect it, strengthen it, own it. Because if you win your morning, you give yourself a real shot at winning the day. And if you win enough days, your whole life starts to change. Chapter 2. Read to solve problems, not just to feel smart. Most people read for entertainment or to impress someone. They pick up books because it feels good to say they're reading something important. But that's not what smart people do. Smart people read for solutions. They're not reading just to feel smarter. They're reading because they're trying to fix something in their life. They're looking for a better way to think, a better way to act, a better way to make things work. That's the difference. If you want to become smarter every day, you have to change how you approach reading. It's not about reading more, it's about reading with purpose. You don't need to finish 100 books. You need to find one idea that makes a real difference, one sentence that shifts how you think, one page that clears your confusion. That's what you're looking for: insight, clarity, direction. Not entertainment, not ego. Too many people read passively. They don't take notes, they don't stop to reflect, they don't apply anything. They finish the book, but they forget it just as fast. Smart people read actively. They highlight, they pause, they ask questions. They look for the part that speaks to their current struggle. They're not impressed by big words. They're not chasing complexity. They're chasing answers. And that's what makes the habit powerful. You have to train yourself to look for what helps. Let's say you're dealing with a lack of focus. You don't just grab any book on self-improvement. You look for a book that speaks directly to that issue. And when you find it, you don't rush through it. You study it. You connect it to your situation. You underline the parts that hit you. You write a few lines about what that means for your next step. That's smart reading. That's useful reading. That's how you grow faster. Most people treat books like trophies. They want to say they've read something others haven't. But that kind of thinking doesn't build real intelligence. That's pride. That's noise. Smart people don't care about showing off. They care about getting better. So they go straight to the source that can help. They don't need the most popular book. They need the right book. The one that makes them think clearly again. The one that helps them solve something they've been stuck on for too long. And here's something else to understand. Reading for the sake of feeling smart is shallow. It doesn't last. You get a small hit of confidence, but then life throws a challenge at you and you're right back to square one. But when you read to solve problems, you're building real tools. You're creating a mental library of ideas you can use again and again. You become someone who knows how to deal with life, not just someone who knows how to sound good in a conversation. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you reading just to say you read? Or are you reading to improve your decision-making, to change how you handle your time, to sharpen how you communicate? That's the kind of reading that transforms you. That's the kind of reading that smart people practice every single day. Sometimes the book you need isn't exciting. It won't have fancy titles, but it has what you're looking for: truth. A simple idea that works, and smart people know how to spot that. They're not looking to be entertained. They're looking to grow. They're not rushing to finish. They're slowing down to absorb. And that makes all the difference. Reading is not about quantity. It's about change. What has your reading done for your mindset? What has it changed about your habits? If you're reading every day and your life still feels the same, then you're reading the wrong way. You're scanning pages but missing meaning. You're collecting quotes but missing wisdom. You need to shift that. You need to read with the intention to use, to apply, to live better. Start asking yourself after every chapter, how can I use this? What part of this applies to my situation right now? What action can I take today based on this idea? That's how smart people read. They're not chasing more books. They're chasing more action. They're reading to build themselves up, not just fill their time. When you find a book that speaks to your problems, study it again and again. Revisit the same lines, think about them during your day, try them out, make adjustments, see what works for you. Don't just finish the book and move on. Go back and squeeze more value out of it. That's what smart people do. They don't move fast, they move with intention. They treat books like tools, not decorations. And remember, reading isn't just for solving external problems. Sometimes it helps you understand yourself better. A good book can make you more aware. It can help you see patterns you've been blind to. It can show you why you react the way you do. It can bring clarity to confusion. But only if you let it. Only if you read slowly enough to connect it to your own life. You don't need to impress anyone with how much you've read. You need to impress yourself with how much you've changed. And change doesn't come from finishing books. It comes from applying them, from turning ideas into action, from turning advice into improvement. That's where growth happens. That's how intelligence builds. Not in the number of pages you read, but in the number of problems you've solved because of what you read. You don't need a fancy reading plan. Just choose one book that addresses one area of your life you want to improve. Read it slowly, make notes, try things out, reflect on what worked, adjust as needed. Then move to the next area. That's how smart people grow. One area at a time, one challenge at a time, one solution at a time. And smart people aren't afraid to reread. They know that every time they revisit a great book, they see it with new eyes. Because they've changed. Their problems have changed, their goals have evolved, and now that book gives them something it didn't before. That's the value of reading with purpose. It never stops giving when you read with the right mindset. There's a difference between collecting information and building wisdom. Information is everywhere, but wisdom is rare. And wisdom only comes when you make what you read personal, when you slow down enough to feel it, when you care enough to act on it, when you're not reading for approval, but for progress. So don't just read to feel smart. Read to get unstuck. Read to find direction. Read to become more stable. Read to make better choices. Read to understand your own life better. That's the kind of reading that transforms a person. That's how you become smarter every day, not just in your mind, but in how you live. If you're serious about growth, treat every book like a conversation with a mentor. Ask questions as you read. Pause when something hits you. Write down what stands out. Reflect on how it connects to your current struggle. Apply it. Live it. That's the formula. That's what works. Smart people don't read to escape life. They read to master it. They don't read to pretend they're improving. They read to actually improve. And they don't wait until life gets easy to learn something. They use reading to make life more manageable. So change how you read. Make it matter. Make it useful. Make it personal. Because when you read with purpose, you don't just collect knowledge. You collect tools. You build strength. You build understanding. And that's how you grow into the person you were meant to be. One solution at a time. One day at a time. One smart habit at a time. Chapter 3. Ask questions that actually help you grow daily. Most people don't grow because they never stop to question their own thinking. They go through each day repeating the same choices, reacting the same way, thinking the same thoughts, and expecting a different outcome. But if you want to become smarter every day, you have to develop the habit of asking the right questions. Questions that challenge you. Questions that make you look at yourself. Questions that help you understand what's really going on in your life. This is what separates people who stay stuck from people who move forward with clarity and strength. Smart people don't wait for someone else to ask them what's wrong. They ask themselves. Growth doesn't begin with action, it begins with awareness. And awareness comes from the questions you ask yourself. You have to stop rushing through your day without checking in, Stop waiting for life to slow down before you take a look inside. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Ask, what could I have handled differently? Ask, what's one thing I need to fix right now? These are not dramatic questions. They're not meant to impress anyone. But they work. They make you pause. They make you reflect. They wake you up. The problem is most people ask questions that keep them small. They ask things like, why does this always happen to me? Or, what's wrong with everyone else? Those kinds of questions don't teach you anything. They just protect your ego. They keep your mind focused on blame instead of growth. But when you ask, what can I learn from this? Or what was my role in this outcome? You shift the power back to yourself. You stop being a victim. You start taking responsibility. And responsibility is where growth begins. Smart people ask tough questions, not because they like pain, but because they want truth. They want to know what's real. They want to know what needs to be corrected. They don't run from discomfort. They use it. They ask, what did this experience reveal about me? And they use the answer to sharpen themselves. That's how they keep improving. That's how they stay ahead. It's not enough to read books or listen to good advice. If you don't stop to question how it fits into your life, you won't grow from it. Growth comes from processing, from turning insight into self-reflection, from turning reflection into action. That's why your daily questions matter, because they turn information into wisdom. You have to build this into your routine. Every day, take a few minutes and ask the questions that matter. What distracted me today? What energized me? What drained me? What did I avoid that I should have faced? What did I fear that didn't actually happen? These are simple, direct questions, but they open the door to clarity, and with clarity you start making better choices. Some of the most powerful shifts in life come from asking the most basic questions at the right time. Questions like, is this who I want to be? Or, what am I avoiding right now? These aren't fun to ask. They might make you uncomfortable, but they lead to strength. They lead to breakthroughs. If you only ask surface-level questions, you'll get surface-level answers. But if you dig deeper, even just a little, you'll start to find what you really need to work on. And you don't need to ask 100 questions. Just one good question a day can change the way you think. It can shift your attention from distraction to focus. It can move you from confusion to direction. It can remind you of what matters, but only if you take it seriously. Only if you pause long enough to answer honestly. Honest questions bring honest answers, but most people avoid this because they're afraid of what they might see. They don't want to admit they've been lazy. They don't want to admit they've been making excuses. But the truth is, growth requires humility. You can't get smarter if you already believe you know everything. You have to be willing to say, I missed it today. You have to be willing to say, I could have done better. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's how you develop real intelligence, not just mental sharpness, but emotional strength. People often wait for a crisis to start asking real questions, but you don't need to wait for pain to grow. You can build this habit now. You can become the kind of person who checks in every day, who doesn't drift too far without stopping, who knows how to pull themselves back on track before things spiral. That's what smart people do. They don't let their days blur together. They stop. They ask. They think. They adjust. You should also ask forward-looking questions. Not just what went wrong, but what can I do better tomorrow? Not just, why did I feel off today, but what do I need to feel strong again? Questions that create movement. Questions that point you in the right direction. Because growth isn't just about understanding the past. It's about preparing for what's next. And the questions you ask shape your identity. If you ask strong questions daily, you become a stronger person. You become someone who notices, someone who reflects, someone who doesn't let patterns repeat without interrupting them. That kind of self-awareness compounds over time. You start making different decisions, you speak differently, you carry yourself not because someone told you to, but because you figured it out through your own inner work. You can't outsource this habit. No one else can do it for you. You have to build it yourself. And you do that by making it a daily priority, not just when things go wrong, but every day. Whether the day was good or bad, ask questions. Whether you hit your goals or not, ask questions. Whether you feel clear or lost, ask questions. Whether you feel empowered or lost, ask, because every time you ask, you grow. You open your mind to feedback. You sharpen your awareness. You remind yourself that you're in charge of your development. Start small. Ask one solid question before you sleep. Ask it during a break. Ask it after a conversation. Use questions to understand your patterns. Use questions to break through resistance. Use questions to reveal the truth. Because that's what smart people do. They don't just accept life as it is, they examine it. They look for ways to live better, to think better, to respond better. If you go through your day without questioning anything, you fall into habits. You repeat yesterday. You lose control of your mind. But the habit of asking good questions pulls you out of that trap. It keeps you curious, it keeps you learning, it keeps you sharp, and it keeps you honest. So if you want to become smarter every day, don't just chase information. Chase understanding. And to get understanding, you need to ask questions that matter. Questions that push you. Questions that humble you. Questions that teach you something about yourself. Not once in a while, every day. That's how you keep growing. That's how you become wiser. And that's how you stay ahead, not just in knowledge, but in character.
Chapter 4. Write down what matters and review it nightly. If you go through the day without capturing what mattered, you're going to forget the most important parts of your life. That's how people end up feeling lost. They live every day, but they don't remember what they felt, what they learned, or what they accomplished. They keep going, but nothing sticks. And when nothing sticks, you don't grow. You don't learn from your choices. You don't build clarity. That's why smart people don't let their thoughts vanish. They write them down. They capture what counts. They don't leave it up to memory, because memory fades. Paper remembers. Writing locks in your progress. You don't need to write long pages. You just need to be consistent. What mattered today? What did you understand today that you didn't see yesterday? What conversation shifted something inside you? What decision are you proud of? What habit are you trying to change? These are the things that deserve your attention. Not just once, but every night. Every night is your opportunity to reset, to track, to reflect. That's how you stay clear. That's how you stop drifting. And that's how you become smarter over time. The people who grow the fastest are the ones who are serious about self-reflection. And real reflection isn't just thinking, it's writing. Writing forces you to slow down. It forces you to get specific. It forces you to be honest. You can lie to yourself in your thoughts, but when you see it written in your own words, you can't ignore the truth anymore. That's why it works. That's why it helps. It creates space between you and your thoughts. It gives you a mirror that doesn't blur. Writing things down at night brings your day to a clean end. It clears your mental clutter. It gives your mind closure. Most people carry their stress from one day into the next. They go to bed with noise. They sleep with tension. They wake up without clarity. That cycle breaks when you write. When you get your thoughts out of your head and onto paper, you don't carry them the same way. You release them, you organize them, and you learn from them. Smart people don't wait for breakthroughs. They build clarity one day at a time. They write to track progress. They write to notice patterns. They write to remember their priorities. It's not about being a great writer. It's about becoming a more aware person. It's about understanding what's working and what's not. It's about knowing yourself better today than you did yesterday. That's the real reason for writing things down. It's not for the sake of journaling. It's for the sake of alignment. You have to know what you're aiming for. And that means reviewing your choices, reviewing your thoughts, reviewing your emotions. Otherwise, you repeat days without realizing it. You end up stuck. You confuse motion for progress. You keep moving, but nothing really changes. When you write and review your day, you stop that cycle. You interrupt the autopilot. You regain control of your life. And this habit becomes even more powerful when you make it personal. Write the way you talk. Don't worry about being polished. Be real. Be clear. Be specific. If you're frustrated, write that. If you're excited, write why. If you're confused, write down the questions you have. The point is not perfection. The point is awareness. Because awareness is the first step toward change. Each day brings lessons, but lessons are only useful if you remember them. That's why smart people write them down. They don't trust their brain to hold on to everything. They offload it. They build their own reference guide to personal growth. They can go back and see how they handled something in the past. They can track how their mindset evolved. They can pinpoint when their habits improved. That kind of record is valuable, not for showing off, but for self-mastery. And reviewing what you wrote is just as important as writing it. Some people write but never look back. That's a mistake. You have to revisit your words. You have to remind yourself what you said mattered. Otherwise, you'll forget your own advice. You'll ignore your own wisdom. When you take time to read over your notes, even briefly, you reinforce the lesson. You give your mind a second chance to absorb it. That repetition builds deeper understanding. Make this part of your nightly routine. Take 5 minutes. Sit with a quiet mind. Go over what you wrote yesterday. Ask yourself, did I apply what I learned? Did I improve in the area I wanted to? What got in the way? These are simple questions, but they unlock valuable answers. They help you adjust faster. They help you avoid repeating the same mistake for weeks. That's how you speed up growth. Not by rushing, but by reflecting consistently. And here's the truth. Most people don't do this because they think they don't have time. But that's not true. Everyone has 5 minutes. The problem is, they don't see the value. They think it's just writing. But it's not just writing. It's discipline. It's focus. It's accountability. It's a small act that protects your future from confusion. You don't wait until you're overwhelmed to try and figure things out. You write things down while they're fresh, while they're clear. That way, when you're tired or uncertain, you have something to guide you. Writing things down gives you a reference point. It reminds you of what you said was important. It shows you where your time has been going. It reveals whether your actions match your values. That level of honesty is hard to find when you rely on memory alone. Your mind plays tricks, but your writing tells the truth. And don't think you need the perfect journal. You can use a notebook. You can use a piece of paper. You can use a note on your phone. The habit does. The effort does. The consistency does. Smart people focus on what works. And what works is writing down what matters and reviewing it daily. You'll begin to notice small shifts. You'll start seeing patterns. You'll catch things earlier. You'll make better decisions. You'll respond to problems with more calm. Not because life gets easier, but because you've been sharpening your awareness every night. That edge, that clarity, that mental discipline, it doesn't happen by chance. It happens when you choose to pay attention to your life. And when you write something that really hits you, something deep, something honest, don't let that moment go. Mark it. Revisit it. Use it. That's a breakthrough. That's growth in action. That's where you start to feel stronger, smarter, more in control. Not from external success, but from internal clarity. Over time, this habit becomes a foundation. It becomes part of your identity. You become someone who doesn't just live, someone who understands, someone who doesn't just react, someone who reflects. That kind of person builds lasting change. That kind of person becomes smarter every day, not from random effort, but from repeated reflection. This is how you live intentionally. This is how you stay aligned. This is how you stay grounded when everything else feels scattered. Write down what matters. Don't let it fade. Review it. Learn from it. Build your clarity, brick by brick. That's how you build a better you. One night at a time. One honest page at a time. One smart habit at a time.
Chapter 5. Cut out lazy habits that waste your brain power. Most people don't realize how much of their brain power they lose every single day to small lazy habits. These habits don't look dangerous at first. They seem harmless. A little scrolling, a few skipped tasks, a few minutes wasted here and there. But over time, these lazy habits pile up, and they start to weaken your mental sharpness. They rob you of your clarity. They steal your focus. They eat away at your self-respect. And before you know it, you're tired, distracted, and wondering why you're not making progress. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens little by little, until one day you feel stuck and don't know why. To become smarter every day, you have to start by cutting out the things that drain your mind. You can't afford to keep repeating behaviors that leave you feeling weak. Every lazy habit you allow is taking something from you. It might take your energy. It might take your time. It might take your attention. But it always takes something. And if you want to grow, if you want to live strong, if you want to stay sharp, you've got to be ruthless about protecting your mental energy. The truth is, lazy habits are not about being tired. They're about making choices without thinking. They're about doing what's easy instead of what's useful. They're about escaping responsibility instead of owning your time. And the more you feed these habits, the more your mind becomes cluttered. You stop thinking clearly. You stop moving with purpose. You lose the ability to stay focused for long periods, and your potential starts to shrink. That's the danger. Not the habit itself, but the cost it carries. So the first step is to become aware of what those habits are. Take a hard look at how you spend your day. Where does your attention go when you're tired? What do you reach for when you feel bored? What patterns do you fall into when no one's watching? These are the questions that help you see the truth. Maybe it's checking your phone every few minutes. Maybe it's wasting time on negative conversations. Maybe it's delaying simple tasks.
Maybe it's mindlessly consuming content that gives you nothing back. Whatever it is, it needs to stop. You can't build a sharp mind on a lazy routine. You can't expect to feel focused when most of your habits are designed for comfort. You don't sharpen your thinking by doing what's easy. You sharpen it by doing what's necessary. That means getting serious about what you allow into your day. Smart people don't wait for motivation. They build structure. They make decisions ahead of time. They reduce the number of times they have to choose between what's easy and what's right. And they do that by removing temptations before they become distractions. If you want to cut lazy habits, you need to make your environment support better choices. Put your phone in another room when you're working. Set specific times to check messages. Keep your space clean. Keep your tasks visible. Make it easier to do the right thing and harder to slip into mindless routines. This isn't about perfection. It's about making smart choices easier to stick with. Because once you reduce the noise around you, your mind starts to clear up. And when your mind is clear, your decisions improve. Your focus improves. Your confidence improves. Smart people also understand the importance of routines. When your day is predictable, you don't waste brain power figuring out what to do next. You use that energy for deeper thinking. That's how you stay sharp. Not by constantly changing direction, but by staying consistent with your habits. That consistency builds momentum, and momentum leads to growth. But lazy habits don't just show up in how you use your time. They show up in how you talk to yourself. They show up in the excuses you repeat. I'll start later. It's just a few minutes. I deserve a break. These thoughts sound innocent, but they create weakness. They build mental shortcuts. And once you start believing them, you stop holding yourself to a higher standard. You need to challenge those thoughts. You need to ask yourself, what is this habit costing me? Not just in time, but in energy, in focus, in strength. Every time you give in to a lazy behavior, you lose a little bit of trust in yourself. You start to feel like you're not in control anymore. But when you resist, even for a few minutes, you start rebuilding that trust. You start proving to yourself that you can do the hard thing. That's how you grow. Cutting lazy habits isn't about being strict. It's about being honest. Are your habits helping you or hurting you? Are they building your future or delaying it? Are they making you sharper or duller? Answering those questions truthfully can change your direction fast, because once you see the cost, it's hard to go back. Once you feel the difference between a lazy day and a focused one, you won't want to waste your energy again. And don't just focus on removing bad habits. Replace them. Find something better to do in those moments. Instead of reaching for your phone, reach for a book. Instead of skipping your task, finish it quickly and move on. Instead of zoning out, check in with yourself. How do you feel? What's on your mind? What needs attention? Turn the lazy moment into a growth moment. That's what smart people do. They don't just stop bad behavior, they replace it with something stronger. And when you slip, because you will slip, don't use that as an excuse to give up. Use it as a lesson. Ask yourself why it happened. Were you tired? Bored? Unclear? Then fix that for next time. Adjust your routine. Change your setup. Remove the trigger and move forward. That's how you build discipline. Not by being perfect, but by learning quickly and getting back on track without delay. Over time, this habit becomes part of your identity. You stop tolerating distractions. You stop excusing laziness. You start showing up with more strength, more energy, more clarity. You feel lighter. You feel more in control. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped letting lazy choices run your day. Your brain is powerful, but it needs your help. It needs structure. It needs discipline. It needs you to stop feeding it junk. Because what you allow in is what comes out. And if you keep feeding your mind with distractions, you can't expect it to stay focused. You can't expect it to make wise decisions. You can't expect it to grow. You become smarter every day by managing what you allow to continue. Lazy habits are not just small behaviors. They're signals. They tell your brain that it's okay to waste time. They tell your brain that comfort matters more than growth. And every time you allow them, you reinforce that message. But when you stop them, when you catch yourself and choose better, you send a new signal. You tell your brain that this time matters, that your focus matters, that your future matters. And that message builds strength. That message builds intelligence. That message builds a life you can be proud of. So don't wait until the habit gets out of control. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed. Start now. Start where you are. Look at your day. Pick one lazy habit. Cut it. Replace it. Repeat. Then do it again tomorrow. Keep going. Keep refining. Keep protecting your brain power like it's your most valuable asset. Because it is. And the smarter you become about how you use it, the further you'll go. One smart decision at a time. One clean habit at a time. One focused day at a time. Chapter 6. Learn from your own life and not just books. Most people believe that wisdom is found in books, lectures, or someone else's experience, but they forget one of the greatest resources they have is their own life. Your life is a library, full of lessons that most ignore. You go through challenges, you face decisions, you deal with emotions, and then what do you do with all of that? If you don't stop and learn from it, you end up repeating the same situations, thinking the same way, and missing out on growth that's right in front of you. You don't need to read 10 more books to grow. You need to reflect on how you've lived so far. That's where the real depth begins. Books are powerful, but they are meant to point you back to yourself. Not to replace your thinking, but to sharpen it. Not to fill your head, but to make you more aware of your own thoughts, your own actions, your own patterns. If you read more than you reflect, you'll know a lot but understand very little. And there are many people who read and read, but stay stuck in the same habits, repeating the same mistakes, because they never take a step back and say, what can I learn from the way I live? Every day your life is speaking to you. Your results speak. Your mood speaks. Your conversations speak. Your time management speaks. But are you listening? Are you slowing down long enough to understand what your own experience is teaching you? Most people don't. They look outward. They wait for advice. They copy others. But smart people look inward. They study themselves. They ask, why did I feel that way today? What worked for me and what didn't? Where did I lose control? These questions aren't difficult, but they're powerful. They reveal the things no book can show you, the personal insights that are unique to your story. And here's something important. Books won't save you if you don't take your own experience seriously. You can't replace living with reading. You can't substitute personal responsibility with quotes. A book can give you a method, but your life will give you clarity. You can read about discipline, but until you deal with your own inconsistency, it's all theory. You can read about purpose, but until you understand your own values, your direction will still be unclear. That's why learning from your own life matters. It grounds you. It connects the dots between what you read and how you live. Smart people take ownership of their journey. They don't just ask, what should I do? They ask, what did I do that didn't work? They reflect on what caused a problem. They notice what they ignored. They think about what they avoided. This is real growth, not borrowed knowledge, but earned understanding. It's the kind that sticks with you, because it came from your own mistakes, your own wins, your own emotions. Look back at your last week. What drained your energy? What gave you momentum? Where did you waste time? Where did you follow through? You don't need anyone to tell you how you're doing. You already know. But the key is writing it down, reviewing it, adjusting based on it. That's what smart people do. They don't just keep moving. They evaluate. They study their own results with as much seriousness as they would study a subject in school. Because they know, if they can understand themselves, they can master their direction. And when something goes wrong, don't just run to a book for an answer. Ask yourself, what role did I play in this? What lesson is hidden in this pain? What is this teaching me about how I react? You'd be amazed how much wisdom is already inside you if you stop dismissing your experience. The truth is, life gives you feedback every single day. When you ignore it, you repeat it. When you respect it, you grow from it. That's why you must build the habit of personal analysis. Not overthinking, not criticizing yourself, but analyzing with the goal to improve. Think of your life like an ongoing project. Each day is an opportunity to refine your approach. Each challenge is a tool to build stronger awareness. But you can't do that if you're constantly consuming new content without stopping to digest your own. There's a balance you have to strike. Read, yes. Learn from others, yes. But apply it to your life. Test it. See what fits you. Then pay more attention to how it plays out in your own world than how it sounded in theory. Books give you a framework, but your life gives you the details. And smart people know without details, the framework is empty. There's nothing more valuable than becoming a student of your own decisions. Look at how you talk. Look at how you think when pressure hits. Look at how you treat people when you're tired. Look at what excuses you repeat. That's where your personal growth is hiding. Not in more information, but in deeper awareness. Smart people stop blaming and start observing. They don't waste time trying to sound wise. They put their energy into understanding what life is trying to teach them. You'll never become wiser if you only listen to others. You have to listen to yourself. And not just your words, your actions, your patterns, your emotions. They carry messages. They show you where you're still reacting out of fear. They show you where you're still repeating cycles. But you have to be honest. You have to look at yourself with clear eyes. You have to say, I'm still making that mistake. I'm still avoiding that conversation. I'm still not following through. And then you do something about it. Learning from your life doesn't mean you'll get it right the first time. But it means you won't waste the failure. You won't waste the discomfort. You won't ignore the signs. Every day gives you a chance to improve something, but you have to slow down enough to notice it. And that's what most people miss. They live fast, they rush through decisions. They numb themselves when things feel difficult. And then they wonder why they don't change. But you can live differently. You can choose to learn every single day from the way you show up, from the things you avoid, from the way you talk to yourself, from how you treat others, from the things you keep putting off. All of it is feedback. All of it is pointing to something deeper. You just have to start paying attention. And when you combine this kind of reflection with reading, something amazing happens. The things you read start to make more sense. They hit harder. They stick longer, because you're not reading them as ideas. You're seeing them in your own life. You understand them on a deeper level, and you start to connect what you learn to how you live. That's the key. That's how smart people grow. Not by escaping into books, but by connecting the knowledge back to their experience. So every day, take a few minutes. Think about what life taught you today. Not what someone else said. Not what a podcast taught. but what your own behavior showed you, what your emotions tried to tell you, what your patterns revealed. This is where maturity begins. This is where clarity builds. This is where intelligence gets real. If you want to become smarter every day, stop overlooking your life. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you how to grow. Start with yourself. Start with your actions. Start with your truth. Your life is the best teacher you'll ever have, if you're willing to learn from it. One decision at a time, one lesson at a time, one honest reflection at a time.
Chapter 7. Spend time with people who talk about progress. If you want to become smarter every day, you have to take a serious look at who you spend time with, because the people around you influence your thoughts, your conversations, your focus, and even your sense of what's possible. If you spend too much time with people who always talk about problems, who gossip, who make excuses, or who settle for average, it gets harder for you to think clearly about your own growth. You start lowering your standards without realizing it. You laugh at things that waste time. You stay silent when you should speak up. You start to believe that progress is optional, but it's not. If you want to get ahead, if you want to think sharper and move faster, you need people who talk about goals, not drama. People who push themselves, who are serious about progress, who speak the language of growth. Most people don't choose their circle intentionally. They stay around whoever is convenient, familiar, or comfortable. But convenience doesn't build intelligence. Familiarity doesn't sharpen you. Comfort doesn't make you stronger. Growth happens when you're surrounded by people who are moving forward, people who are building, learning, doing. These are the kinds of people who keep your mind sharp, not because they know everything, but because they care about getting better. When you talk with them, you don't leave feeling drained. You leave feeling challenged, motivated, clear. Progress-minded people think differently. They ask better questions. They don't just talk about what went wrong. They ask how to fix it. They don't sit around blaming. They focus on taking action. They're not stuck on the past. They're building towards something better. And when you spend time with them, their mindset rubs off on you. You start to catch yourself when you complain too long. You stop tolerating weak habits. You get back on track faster. That's the power of association. You don't have to be around perfect people, but you do need to be around people who are honest with themselves, people who are working on something, people who care about their direction. These are the people who won't let you settle for less, not because they pressure you, but because their example reminds you what's possible. You hear how they think. You see how they act, and it reminds you to stay focused on what matters. Look at your current circle, who brings you closer to your potential, who distracts you from it, who asks you real questions, who celebrates progress instead of nonsense. These aren't small questions. These are the questions that define your environment. And your environment is shaping you every single day. You're either being pulled forward or pulled down, and there is no neutral. Smart people don't leave their growth to chance. They create conditions that support it. And part of that is choosing the right voices to be around. If everyone around you is lazy with their thinking, you'll become lazy with yours. If everyone avoids responsibility, you'll start making excuses too. But if you're around people who are disciplined, focused, and serious about progress, your standards rise just by showing up. Sometimes that means making hard choices. It means spending less time with people who always talk about nothing, people who waste your energy, people who pull you into the same old topics, the same old complaints, the same old habits. You can still care about them. You can still be kind, but you don't have to match their energy. You don't have to stay stuck just because they are. Your life has a direction.
Your mind has potential. And if someone doesn't respect that, you need to create space between you. Start looking for people who talk about ideas, people who want to improve their skills, people who are building something, even if it's small, people who reflect on their behavior, people who want to be better spouses, parents, workers, leaders. They don't have to be experts, they just have to be honest and committed to progress. Those are the conversations that feed your mind. Those are the people that keep you alert. Those are the moments that remind you you're not alone in this pursuit. And don't just wait for those people to show up. Seek them out. You can find them in books, yes, but also in groups, in communities, in small conversations. Ask real questions. Listen carefully. Share something honest. That's how you build connection. That's how you find people who think like you, or who think better than you, and pull you higher. Progress isn't loud. It's not always exciting, but it's real. And when you talk to people who are making it, you feel it. You learn faster. You challenge your beliefs. You stop wasting time, because suddenly you realize you've been spending hours talking about things that don't matter. And now you're spending time talking about direction, about decisions, about what's next. Every conversation you have is either feeding your growth or feeding your distraction. The people you talk to most often are setting the tone for your thinking. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. Minds sync. Energy transfers. If you surround yourself with strong minds, your thinking improves. You pick up habits, perspectives, questions that strengthen your daily life. If you surround yourself with scattered minds, you pick up worry, passivity, and distractions. So the choice matters. And you don't need a big group. Even one or two people who talk about progress regularly can completely shift your energy. You need people who can challenge your thinking without attacking you. People who can ask, "Why are you doing that?" and help you see your blind spots. You need people who bring clarity, who help you move forward when you're stuck. Not because they have all the answers, but because they care enough to ask you better questions. Be careful about spending too much time with people who avoid growth. They'll talk you out of taking risks. They'll laugh at your discipline. They'll tell you to relax when you know it's time to push. Not because they're evil, but because your progress makes them uncomfortable. It reminds them of what they're not doing. And instead of changing, they want to pull you back. You don't need that. You need truth. You need encouragement. You need progress-minded people who want you to win, not stay small. And as you find those people, be that person for others. Show up with clarity. Talk about your goals. Share your struggles and what you're learning from them. Help others grow. That's how you build a strong circle. Not by waiting for perfect people, but by being consistent with your own values. By being real, by being willing to have conversations that move people forward. Growth is contagious. Progress spreads, but only if you make room for it. If your circle is full of distractions, you need to make changes, not out of arrogance, but out of respect for your mind. Because your future depends on who you allow to influence it. Your daily mindset depends on who you're listening to. And your habits are being shaped by your conversations, whether you realize it or not. So get serious about your circle. Don't settle for people who only talk about what they can't control. Don't spend hours listening to people who make you feel small, tired, or stuck. Choose progress. Choose intention. Choose people who challenge you to think, to act, to improve. One honest conversation can unlock a new way of seeing. One connection can give you the strength to keep going. One group can shift your direction completely. If you want to become smarter every day, make this a priority. Don't just read more. Don't just work harder. Start surrounding yourself with people who are growing, people who ask good questions, who reflect, who want more from life. Because when you're surrounded by progress, you start to expect more from yourself. You stop tolerating distractions. You start moving with clarity. And that's how your mindset evolves. That's how you stay sharp. That's how you build a future worth living. One smart conversation at a time. One honest connection at a time. One decision to upgrade your circle, starting today. Chapter 8. Act fast on ideas before they disappear forever. Ideas don't stick around forever. They come in fast and leave just as quickly. You might get a clear thought during a walk, or feel a spark of inspiration in the middle of a conversation, or wake up with an answer to something you've been stuck on. But if you don't act on it, if you don't move quickly, that idea fades. And most people let it fade. They say, "I'll write it down later. I'll start next week. I'll think about it tomorrow." But the truth is, that idea came to you for a reason, and if you delay, you miss it. You don't lose it because you're forgetful. You lose it because you didn't treat it like it mattered. You have to move fast when your mind gives you something valuable. It doesn't mean you need to build the entire project in a day, but you do need to take a step. Write it down. Record a voice note. Open the file. Start the outline. Message the person. Do something that turns the thought into action. Because the longer you wait, the more doubt creeps in, the more distractions take over, the more reasons you find to delay. Acting fast isn't just about speed. It's about protecting momentum. It's about showing yourself that you respect the idea enough to move on it. Most people don't lack ideas. They lack urgency. They sit on great thoughts and never do anything with them. And then months later they see someone else doing something similar, and they feel regret. They feel frustrated. Not because the other person stole anything, but because deep down they know they ignored their own potential. You can't afford to keep doing that. You have to develop the habit of responding to inspiration quickly. That's how smart people stay ahead. They don't just collect ideas, they act on them. They turn sparks into something real. Ideas are like seeds. They won't grow unless you plant them right away. If you hold on to them too long without action, they die. You forget the feeling that came with them. You lose the clarity that made them make sense. You move on to other things, and the window closes. That's why speed matters. That's why you need to take that first step while the energy is still alive. And this doesn't mean you rush without thinking. It means you create motion. You make a quick move that gives the idea structure. You give it space to grow. Most people want to wait until they have everything figured out. But that's not how progress works. Clarity comes from movement, not from sitting still. You figure it out by doing, by testing, by building a little at a time. The smartest people don't wait for perfect plans. They trust themselves to start and adjust along the way. You also need to understand that ideas are personal. What hits you may not hit someone else the same way. That's why your responsibility is to honor the moment when it comes. When your mind offers you something powerful, don't ignore it. Don't let fear delay you. Don't talk yourself out of it. The idea didn't show up by accident. It's your job to respond, to grab it, to move with it before it slips away. Sometimes the reason you're stuck is because you've ignored too many ideas in the past. You've trained yourself to delay. You've built the habit of hesitation, and hesitation kills creativity. It creates self-doubt. It weakens your ability to trust your instincts. But when you start acting fast, even in small ways, you rebuild that trust. You teach yourself that when something good shows up, you'll do something about it. And that creates confidence. That builds momentum. That shifts how you think. Acting fast doesn't mean reckless action. It means intentional movement. It means not waiting for approval, not waiting for the timing to be perfect, not waiting until your schedule is clear, because life won't always give you the right moment. You have to make the moment right by how you respond. You have to treat your ideas like they matter, because they do. Your best ideas don't come when you force them. They show up when you're living, when you're paying attention, when you're present. But once they arrive, it's your discipline that keeps them alive. You need systems, you need tools. You need a way to capture thoughts quickly and act on them just as quickly. Whether it's a notebook, a file, a task list, or a simple app, use whatever works. Just don't trust your memory alone. Because memory fades, and once the feeling behind the idea is gone, it's hard to get it back. And don't underestimate the power of small steps. Acting fast doesn't mean building everything overnight. It means doing something now, even if it's small, that moves the idea forward. 10 minutes spent organizing your thoughts can lead to a breakthrough tomorrow. A short email can open a door. A voice note can remind you of a direction worth pursuing. The point is to act, to stop sitting on your potential, to stop telling yourself you'll get to it someday. Someday is where good ideas go to die. And if you keep waiting for more time, you'll never get it. You have to make time. You have to protect your focus. You have to stop letting laziness or doubt get in the way. Because the longer you wait, the harder it gets to start. That's the cost of delay. It's not just time lost, it's confidence lost, it's energy lost, it's momentum lost. Smart people don't just have ideas, they have habits that keep those ideas alive. They've trained themselves to respond. They've trained themselves to take quick action. That's why they stay ahead. It's not that they're more creative, it's that they move when it counts. They build something instead of sitting with the thought of it. They risk being wrong instead of doing nothing. And because of that, they grow. You don't need to act on every idea, but you do need to act on the right ones fast. The ones that feel clear, the ones that spark something deep inside, the ones that solve a problem or reveal a direction. Learn to recognize them, learn to respect them, because the cost of not acting is greater than the fear of getting it wrong. And over time, the habit of acting fast becomes part of who you are. You stop delaying. You stop overthinking. You trust yourself more. You become someone who follows through. Someone who doesn't let opportunity pass by. Someone who turns insight into reality. That's not just intelligence, that's maturity. That's leadership. That's what builds a meaningful life. Ideas are not rare, but people who move on them are. You have to decide which group you belong to. The people who watch others move forward, or the people who move first, who trust their inner voice, who take action when it matters most. The choice is always yours, so the next time something clicks in your mind, don't ignore it. Don't save it for later. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Do something now. Send the message. Open the file. Sketch the plan. Capture the energy. That's how you make ideas real. That's how you stay sharp. That's how you build momentum that lasts. Not with waiting, not with thinking, but with action. Fast, focused, intentional action. One smart move at a time. One bold response at a time. One idea turned into progress, starting the moment it shows up. Chapter 9. Teach others so your knowledge becomes stronger. If you want to get smarter every day, one of the most powerful things you can do is teach what you know. It doesn't matter how much you've read or how many notes you've taken. If you can't explain it simply to someone else, you haven't mastered it yet. Teaching is not just about helping others, it's about refining your own understanding. Every time you try to explain something clearly, you begin to see where your thinking is still weak, where your knowledge is thin, and where your assumptions break down. That's how you grow. That's how you move from basic learning to real ownership of your knowledge. When you teach someone, your mind works harder. You're no longer just absorbing information, you're organizing it, connecting it, and delivering it in a way that makes sense. That process sharpens your thinking. It forces you to clarify the details. It reveals what you truly understand and what you've only memorized. And once you realize how much stronger your knowledge becomes when you share it, you stop hoarding what you know. You start seeing every conversation as an opportunity to practice your thinking. Most people are afraid to teach because they think they need to be experts. But you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to share what's been useful for you. You can teach from what you've experienced, from what you've struggled through, from what finally clicked for you after trying different things. That kind of teaching is honest, and it connects with people. And as you teach, you start to reinforce what matters. You turn loose ideas into clear frameworks. You make your own thinking stronger simply by expressing it out loud. Teaching also keeps you humble, because the moment you try to explain something and realize you can't, you see exactly where you need to improve. You can't hide behind vague language. You can't pretend to know more than you do. The act of teaching puts your knowledge to the test. It pushes you to be more precise, more thoughtful, more intentional with your learning. That pressure is good. It keeps your mind active. It prevents you from becoming passive in your growth. When you teach others, you also begin to recognize patterns. You start noticing the common struggles people face. You hear the same questions, the same confusion, the same mistakes. That feedback helps you grow faster because it challenges you to think beyond your own situation. You have to take what you know and apply it in a way that helps someone else. That's a skill, and it builds your confidence, your communication, and your sense of responsibility. There's also something powerful about being useful. When someone benefits from what you've learned, it reminds you that your journey matters, that your effort is not just for you, that your progress can inspire or guide someone else. And that's a powerful reason to stay sharp, to keep learning, to keep improving, not just for yourself, but for the people who might one day need your insight. You don't need a stage or a classroom to teach. You just need to be willing to share. You can teach through a message, through a conversation, through a short post, through a voice note. You can teach by answering a question with care. You can teach by showing someone how you solve a problem. The method doesn't matter. The habit does. The willingness to take what you know and give it shape through teaching is what matters. And every time you teach, your retention improves. Your recall strengthens. You don't just kind of know it, you own it. It becomes part of you, something you can access and apply under pressure. That's why teaching works. It's not about showing off. It's about building a deeper relationship with what you've learned, turning knowledge into wisdom, turning facts into understanding. Teaching also develops your discipline, because if you're serious about helping others, you'll prepare better. You'll review your notes more carefully. You'll seek clarity. You'll become more focused on learning things the right way, not just the easy way. It keeps your standards high. It keeps your learning active, and over time it helps you build a foundation that's stronger than most. Most people stop learning because they stop sharing. They keep everything in their head, hoping it sticks. But it doesn't. What sticks is what you express, what you write, what you speak, what you teach. That's what becomes solid in your mind. That's what you remember. That's what you build on. If you're serious about growing, make teaching a regular part of your routine. It doesn't have to be formal. Just share what you've learned that day. Explain it to a friend. Post it somewhere. Say it out loud to yourself. The act of expressing it is where the real learning happens. It's what separates people who read and forget from people who remember and improve. Teaching also creates accountability. If you tell someone you're going to explain a concept, you're more likely to study it well. If you know someone is learning from you, you're more likely to stay disciplined. That sense of responsibility pushes you to be better. It's not pressure in a negative way. It's purpose. It gives your learning a direction, a reason beyond yourself. And when you teach, you often find that you understand more than you thought. That you have insights others haven't seen, that your experience carries value, and that realization builds self-respect. It makes you take your own growth more seriously, because now it's not just about you, it's about who you can impact. The smartest people I know are not the ones who talk the most, they're the ones who teach with clarity. They simplify the complex. They explain things in a way that makes people feel stronger, not smaller. And that skill didn't come from showing off. It came from years of sharing, reflecting and improving. You can build that too. Start small. Start honest. Just make the decision to share what you know in a way that helps others move forward. Every time you do, your mind becomes sharper. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your voice becomes stronger. You no longer just learn to know, you learn to give. And that shift changes everything. Because now your knowledge isn't just about accumulation, it's about contribution. That's where growth becomes meaningful. That's where it sticks. That's how you become smarter, not just in information but in life. So start today. Think about something you've learned recently. Something that helped you, something that clicked, and then ask, who can I share this with? It could be a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger. The point isn't who, it's that you do it. Because the moment you teach, your growth deepens. And the more often you teach, the stronger your knowledge becomes. One shared idea at a time, one clear explanation at a time. One honest effort to make what you've learned real, both for yourself and for someone else. Chapter 10. End each day by fixing one weak spot. Most people let their days end without thinking about what needs to be corrected. They go to bed, carrying the same flaws, repeating the same small mistakes, dragging the same mental weight into tomorrow. They tell themselves they'll fix it later. They'll start fresh next week. They'll do better when they feel more motivated. But that's not how growth happens. Growth happens daily, not once a month, not when everything feels perfect. If you want to become smarter every day, you need to end each day with a clear look at yourself, find one weak spot, and do something about it. Right then. Not tomorrow. That night. You fix one thing. One choice, one habit, one reaction, and then you sleep. Clean, clear, ready. The habit of daily correction is one of the most powerful tools you can build. It keeps your progress real. It makes your self-awareness active. It stops you from drifting too far without course correction. When you do this regularly, you begin to see your patterns faster. You recognize your emotional triggers. You understand what caused your delay, your irritation, your distraction. You stop repeating bad days because you no longer carry the same old behaviors into the next morning. You end the day with responsibility, not regret. And the key here is not to fix everything. It's not about perfection. It's about one honest improvement. One piece of the day where you say, that wasn't good enough, and then make a decision to change it. Maybe you lost your focus too early. Maybe you didn't stick to your schedule. Maybe you avoided a task. Maybe you didn't listen well. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you face it, you learn from it, and you don't let it become normal. Most people are uncomfortable looking at their weak spots. They want to believe they're doing fine. They distract themselves with entertainment. They go to bed without reflection, and slowly they build lives filled with repeated errors that were never addressed. They carry the weight of their unchecked habits, and it shows in their mood, in their discipline, in their decisions. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can make a small correction each night and start turning your weaknesses into strength. When you do this, you begin to move with clarity. You stop lying to yourself. You start tracking your behavior the way someone serious about progress would. And over time, the changes add up. You look back and realize the things that used to throw you off no longer control you. You built strength, not by making huge leaps, but by fixing small pieces every day. Ending your day this way also improves your sleep. You stop lying in bed worrying about what you didn't do. You stop carrying guilt. You stop tossing thoughts around with no direction, because you already faced it. You already took action. Even if the fix was small, you did something. That alone gives you peace. It gives you closure. It gives you the feeling that you're not stuck, you're not weak, you're not ignoring your potential. And this habit doesn't need to take long. 5 minutes is enough. You sit down. You ask yourself what part of the day didn't align with who you want to be. You identify the moment. You write it down. You decide what you'll do differently next time. You commit to it. And that's it. You don't beat yourself up. You don't dwell. You just correct. Simple, clear, focused. Some people journal every night but never make adjustments. They write how they feel but they don't apply any change. That's not growth. That's just repetition. Growth means using the information your day gave you. It means doing something with what you learned about yourself. Not just writing it, living it, adjusting it, owning it. 1 weak spot a day might seem small, but over a year that's 365 improvements. That's 365 points of progress. That's 365 moments where you took control instead of letting life just happen to you. That builds strength that can't be faked. It builds a kind of discipline that other people notice. You become someone who doesn't just want to be better, you're actually getting better, visibly, steadily, honestly. This habit also sharpens your ability to lead yourself. You stop needing external motivation. You stop relying on other people to push you. You don't need reminders because your standards are set. And every night you reset those standards. You say, here's where I fell short, and here's how I'll do better tomorrow. That alone puts you ahead of 90% of people, because most never look inward long enough to find what needs to change. And you don't have to share this process with anyone. This is between you and you. No applause, no validation, just quiet progress, just mental clarity, just real change. And when you do it enough times, it becomes automatic. At the end of each day, your mind starts looking for the lesson. It starts scanning for the gap. It starts wanting the improvement. That's how real transformation begins, not from pressure but from commitment. Fixing 1 weak spot daily doesn't mean you're hard on yourself. It means you respect your future. It means you don't let today's errors become tomorrow's habits. It means you hold yourself accountable with kindness and precision. You don't shame yourself, you shape yourself. Start paying attention to how you react in pressure, how you speak when you're tired, how you behave when nobody's watching. These are the places where growth lives. These are the spots that tell the truth. And if you want to build a better life, that's where you look. Not at your successes, but at the places that still need work. You face them, you fix one, and then you rest, knowing you got stronger. The smartest people I've ever met all have one thing in common: they review themselves constantly. Not to be negative, but to be clear. They don't avoid their flaws, they work on them. Daily, quietly, relentlessly. That's why they stay sharp. That's why they move forward even when others don't. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's discipline. The discipline to fix one weak spot at a time until weakness is replaced with strength. You can start this tonight. No need for anything fancy. Just ask yourself, where did I miss the mark today? And then ask, what's one small change I can make? That's the whole process. That's the path to long-term growth. That's how you make progress that sticks. And tomorrow, when you face a similar moment, you'll catch yourself. You'll remember the decision you made the night before. You'll act with more awareness. You'll choose better. Not because it was easy, but because you were prepared. Because you made the correction. Because you didn't let the day end without learning something useful. This habit makes your days count. It makes your mistakes useful. It turns your nights into a time for strengthening, not escaping. And it turns your life into a steady path of quiet mastery. One decision at a time. One correction at a time. One honest